I think insects are amazing, beautiful creatures, regardless of the fact that they do stuff that we depend upon. They pollinate our crops, they keep our soils healthy, they control crop pests. They're involved in all sorts of ecological processes. They're an integral part of the way our planet works. But aside from that, they are just extraordinary. They make up the bulk of life on Earth. They have these amazing, fascinating life cycles. Some of them are stunningly beautiful if you take the time to look at them. There's a huge amount we don't understand about them. There are still probably millions of insect species we haven't even named yet. So there's this extraordinary biodiversity living all around us that we largely ignore. And my kind of, I guess, mission in life is to try and persuade people to pay more attention to these little creatures and appreciate that they're important, but also appreciate them for just being fascinating creatures in their own right. People differ enormously in their opinion about this kind of subject, but it seems to me that every organism on our planet has as much right to be here as we do. You know, people often say to me, what is the point of mosquitoes or wasps or slugs or whatever, any organism they don't like? And you could just as well ask, what is the point of humans? Why are any of us here? I don't think we should only value organisms for what they do for us. We should extend them the same rights we apply to ourselves. Everything deserves to live, in my view. To be honest, I'm not terribly optimistic. I think realistically, given how poorly we've done so far in tackling the big issues of the day, climate change, biodiversity loss, and all the related environmental problems we're creating, I'm not optimistic that we're going to do a very good job of solving these crises anytime soon. So they're going to get worse. I think it's very likely that our children and our grandchildren will have a much tougher life than we have done because of that. As for the future for insects, it's pretty clear that we will lose a lot of species. We're losing species every day. Very crude estimates suggest that probably we're currently losing a species to extinction of about one an hour. And most of those are insects, because most species on the planet are insects. So we are going to lose quite a few. Some will be here forever. Some insects are very adaptable. Houseflies, mosquitoes, cockroaches, and so on. Ironically, the insects we don't tend to like will be the ones that will long outlive us, I'm sure. And I do think actually that you can make a good argument that maybe we should turn to insects as a source of protein. They are much more efficient at turning inedible plant material into nutritious animal proteins and fats that we can digest, much more efficient than cows or sheep or chickens. So maybe insect farming will be one of the solutions to living more sustainably in the future. Although I think actually just eating less meat is probably by far the simplest solution, rather than mass cultivation of insects. So some insects will all be here, and if you think long term, life will recover. We may well turn out to be a bit of a blip in the planet's history. We'll have caused the 6th mass extinction event, but life will go on, and no doubt new species will evolve, and I'm sure many of those will be new types of insect. We just may not be around to see it. To me, writing for a kind of general audience is actually, I find it quite easy. It's easier than scientific writing is terribly boring and constrained and precise, and there's very little freedom in it. So the first time I tried writing a book for a popular audience, it was actually really refreshing, because I could have opinions. I could try to be poetic as best I could. So I didn't find that a big challenge. But whether it could be done better, of course, well, I'm sure it could. And there's a bumblebee queen. And I do find it frustrating that I'm not connecting with as many people as I would like. I want the world to appreciate insects and love them like I do, and care for them and help in ensuring that we all have a future on this planet. And most people don't give a stuff at the moment. So whatever I've done and whatever other people have done, it hasn't been anywhere near enough. So clearly we do need to up our game, but exactly how, if I knew, I'd be doing it. It's ironic, actually, that I think most city dwellers think the countryside is full of wildlife. They go on a train journey, they drive along a motorway, they look out the window and it's all green. And they think that green is full of butterflies and bumblebees and birds and foxes and so on. But of course, actually, there's hardly any wildlife in the countryside, sadly, these days. Most of it is farmland and it's intensively managed. It's a desert. There's way more wildlife living in most suburban gardens than there is in a similar area of countryside. But most urban dwellers haven't quite realized that yet. And I think it's really exciting, the potential to invite nature in to urban areas. There's no real downside to doing that. It's a bit of an open door, I think. There's no cost. We're not sacrificing crop production or anything else. The only thing we have to sacrifice is maybe our sort of neat approach to living. We need to get a little more used to gardens being less perfect looking, less tidy. But that's it. That's the only cost to having gardens full of life, cities full of life. And as well as helping nature, that has the sort of dual advantage that it means that kids will grow up seeing bumblebees and butterflies, having the chance to be part of nature rather than being kind of apart from it, living in a city where there is no life and growing up frightened of insects. So there are benefits all round from kind of rewilding our urban areas as best we can. And it's something everyone can get involved in. So I think that's kind of really exciting. I think most people just don't realize that nature is relevant to them. They're busy doing their own thing, worrying about paying the bills, whether their football team's going to win this weekend or whatever it might be. They're not bad people, but somehow we need to explain to them that their well-being and their kids' happiness depends on having a healthy environment. And it's obvious when you think about it, isn't it? Of course we need soil, of course we need bees, and so on and so on. But people don't realize that. And somehow the environmental movement needs to find a way of communicating with this large majority of the population that at the moment just don't get it. They just don't see any of this stuff as relevant to them. And of course it is. And that simple message needs to be got across somehow. But I don't know how to do it. I'll keep trying. But I think it's going to take every one of us to really push on this and win over as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, if we're really going to save the planet.